Welcome back, everybody. This is John with My Small Business Blueprint. Wanted to come back with you this next week and kind of continue the conversation that we started last week. We wrapped up last week kind of saying that we're going to talk about goal setting and how we really go about that process. So that's what I wanted to lead off with today. And it's not necessarily just throwing some goals out on a piece of paper and seeing if we can hit them in 2017, right? It's that motivation versus discipline, going through the necessary steps. And obviously discipline is going to win out almost every time. So with goal setting, I really kind of see it as a three-step approach. One, we actually have to set those goals. We'll talk a little bit about that. We want to go through the steps of activating those goals, how we actually achieve them. And then lastly, we're going to focus on the achievement, actually making it possible and some of the things that come into play with that. So first, just right off the bat, when it comes to goal setting, I think they should be very specific to you. There's a lot of reasons for this, and you can take any small business that's out there, right? If you start coming up or copying different goals from other business plans, from competitors, from other industries, chances are they don't have your value, your skill set, your operations, your savvy. And as a result, I think customers are going to be able to see through that, right? If you start copying what other people have done, maybe you cut more corners, maybe you just try to transition as fast as you can. One of the things that's going to happen is it's not going to have your blood, sweat, and tears into it. It's not going to be specific to you. So I think whatever goals that that you set for yourself, they should be personally driven, professionally driven, and always specific to what your situation is, your intentions are. The other part to that is I think that they should be possible, but they should definitely be difficult. They should definitely push you. So let's just say that you're starting a landscape company, right? We use that for an easy example. So what's possible is, maybe you say, well, I need to make $10,000 with this new business this year. And so I think from that standpoint, yeah, that's definitely a possible number. There's a lot of different ways to make that $10,000. But if you are starting out and you don't have lawnmowers and you don't have weed whips and you don't have edgers and you don't have a wheelbarrow and you don't even have a truck or a trailer or something like that, then yeah, $10,000 might be pretty difficult to achieve that first year. So I think that we really do need to be able to push ourselves with whatever goals that they have. But I also don't think it serves you, your company, your inner circle, any strong positive purpose if you start out that landscape company and say you're going to do $1 million in sales in the first year. I think that we're setting ourselves up to fail with that. So I definitely think that two-pronged approach of possible, but not only that, focusing on the difficult part of it as well, pushing ourselves. The second part, and this is really, I think, my favorite way to look at goal setting, is the activation of those goals. So let's go back to the example, right? Landscaping. If we say we're going to do $10,000 worth of sales, I think that that's a good number. We can all agree upon that. However, on day one, what do? Right? Do you just go to your neighbor and say, can I cut your grass? Do you have any work that needs done? Well, we can start that way. But I also think that if we break it down into specific actionable steps, that's really going to be able to help us as well. And so when we look at this, maybe it's more corporate accounts, maybe it's more residential accounts, maybe it's focusing on mulching in that first year, whatever it might be. But if we can actually take it down and say, okay, on Monday I'm going to do this, on Tuesday I'm going to do this, on Wednesday I'm going to do this, by the first month I'm going to have $1,000 worth of sales, then we can kind of gain some traction and really be able to move the business forward. But I also think that they need to be extremely specific to you. And what we really mean by this is going to be a couple things. But mainly, we want to look at your actions. We want to look at your intentions for going into this business, right? Specificity is a big deal. So when we say $1,000 worth of sales in month one, I think that that's good. But I think we can break it down even further, right? On day one, how many people am I going to call? Not just call new accounts. Call 10 new accounts, call 20 new accounts. And if we can hit those numbers, 10, 20, 30 a day, something like that, then we really gain more confidence in what our abilities are, what our value is that we provide to people. And we're going to be able to look back and say, man, at the end of the week, I called 50 new accounts. Or at the end of the month, I called 100, 150, 200, 500 new accounts. And chances are, the more repetition you get with that, the more work you get into those sales calls and understanding what the customer wants, is going to be much more beneficial than just saying, I'm going to call somebody today. And lastly, the achievement. And so when we look at this one, we have two separate areas on this. Make it known, right? I think that what you really need to do is look at your current network. We want to state the intentions of what this business is going to be, why you are doing it. And the why isn't, I don't necessarily even care what that is, right? If you want to take your kids to Disneyland every year and you need $5,000 to do that, then make it known, right? Because your network, your friends, your family, your professional network, whatever it might be, they have an inherent level of trust built into that relationship. So if they want to see you achieve, maybe it's not someone in your network that's going to get you to that area, but it might be another connection in another person's network. And what's really going to happen there is that you already have that story built, right? You already have that inherent level of trust. Now flip to the second part, create your own story. I think that this is extremely specific too, right? When we talk about, we're going to go back to the landscaping, I don't think that it's necessarily you can get landscaping services for dirt cheap, right? No pun intended. You can do it yourself. However, if you create a brand or a story based upon that business, that's what people are really buying into. They're buying into the emotional component of it. So as you go through this process, the achievement of it, people want to buy into something where they can see the growth, they can see a future. They know that they're helping another small business out. So I really think that publicizing what you're trying to do and creating that own unique story is very important to achieving those goals. So just to put my money where my mouth is, this is kind of my rough outline for a goal setting for 2017. So for my small business blueprint, I want 100 new clients by the end of 2017. Again, take it for what it is. I don't think 100 is necessarily easy to get. I don't think it's necessarily hard to get either, but I think it really depends upon how you choose to structure yourself. So let's look at it from these two different sides, right? One, I want to build my Facebook subscriber list to 1,000 users by the end of 2017. So there's a couple ways to do that. But I also want to be able to launch a consulting program that is specific to every new business that comes in. A cookie-cutter approach is not going to work with building a small business. So if we just look at those two initiatives, well, how do I actually build my Facebook list, right? So one, I think it's very important to have a marketing calendar, not just for me, but for everybody out there. What am I doing on Monday? What am I doing on Tuesday? What am I doing on Saturday to help build that list? Creation of weekly content. What you see here, what you see a lot of small businesses doing, is providing and educating the customer on value. And so if I can do those things, those simple things, then chances are I will see my likes or my list grow over time. The other part to this is having a sponsored budget, right? If I see a really good post or I get a lot of traction on a post, maybe I can boost that post every week with $10, see a lot of new customers coming in or checking out the site or transitioning to my website. And as we do that, we're really going to be able to build our subscriber list, build our email list, but also learn more about the customer and what they need. And that's where the consulting program is meant to come in. Now, on the flip side of this, you also look at networking with local groups, right? So we're going from more of an individual approach to maybe more of a corporate or networking approach. So what does networking with local groups mean? Well, maybe it is working with the Metropreneur, which is a great website here in Columbus. Maybe it's working with different organizations to try and get the message out of small business, or just asking what they need, right? Also developing continuing education courses. A lot of industries out there have the need for continuing education. Finding people, finding groups that you can work with that can amplify, that can multiply your business for you. And then lastly, as you take that next step, well, I'm not going to be able to network with local groups. I'm not going to be able to build those courses or launch a consulting program if I don't have a minimum of 10 new calls per week. 10 new people I can speak to, 10 new contacts I can make and see what they need. Out of those 10, I want one new meeting per week where I can sit down and plan and build for the future and see what's possible. And then lastly, offer free programming. We talked about what those local groups need. We talked about what the continuing education course might look like. One way to get people interested, offer free programming. Put this information out there. There's a ton of information about small businesses and entrepreneurship. But until you make it specific to the actual audience, I'm not necessarily sure that it really is going to hit home with what they need to hear from you and what you need to provide to them, quite frankly. So when we look at goal setting, when we look at all the different possibilities that are really out there, this is how we really want to break it down on a one-to-one basis, on a going through the details and making small actionable steps. So I have some exciting stuff coming down the line for you guys in future episodes and future weeks, and appreciate your time. Thanks for your time today, guys. Bye-bye.